Hello everybody, this is Michael DeStefano, your mostly apathetic gamer, and today I'm going to be doing a playthrough of the Stanley Parable. For the uninitiated, why is there a difficulty setting? Anyway, all I know for sure about the Stanley Parable is that it is a modification of Half-Life 2. I don't know who created it or anything like that. I can't go into really much detail beyond it is simply a mod of Half-Life 2, and a very unique one at that. The story is very unlike Half-Life 2. It's completely narrative-driven. There's no combat as far as I've seen, and you play as this guy named Stanley, and yeah, that's all I'm going to have as far as an intro. So let's start a new game. This is going to be a little different from other playthroughs I've done of this sort, which is that it's only going to be about half blind. I've played through this game before, but this game is such that it has really great replay value because the way you can play through it, you can sort of change the story. There's different choices you can make, and so I've already played it through once. I'm going to basically be doing 2 playthroughs of it, which is why I'm calling it a half-blind playthrough. So let's go ahead and start. And it's going to load the game. And it's going to take forever doing it. And then we're going to have sort of an opening narration sequence that sets up the story for you. So here we go.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
That spacing really bugs me.
Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee
In the
number
subtitles.
427.
It looks really bunched
Employee
up.
number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor next to his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on a monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and walked out into the hallway.
And then you finally get to actually play as this guy named Stanley. And
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
so for this first part of the playthrough, I'm going to basically do exactly what the narrator tells me to do, which is exactly what I did the first time I played through.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
To show you what I guess the narrator would have you do. And I tried to open that door exactly the same way too, and it also did not open then either, so I don't know why.
As Stanley entered the lounge, he was horrified to find not a single person here. He decided he would walk up to see his boss, hoping that he would find an answer there.
Wow, that's not scary at all that door would just open by itself. It looks like After Effects on that computer over there.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Upstairs to his boss's office, just like the narrator said.
Entering his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. It was at this point that he began to feel dizzy and a little sick, and even thought he might pass out, when suddenly he noticed a keypad next to the filing cabinet in the corner of his boss's office. Stanley had never seen this panel before and had no idea what combination of numbers would produce any result. In fact, only Stanley's boss knew this, since the panel withheld access to the boss's greatest, darkest secret, and so he had assigned the keypad a combination that only he could possibly know: the number of his freshman dorm number in college, 1957. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
So apparently the Combine has been ruling Earth just long enough for this man to have gone to college in his lifetime, so that's interesting. Oh fuck, what was the combination? 0.
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs.
9.
Trying to input anything on the keypad was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 1957.
Alright, so thank you, game, for that.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing.
That's actually kind of funny.
Stanley ventured forth into the
I love this narrator.
passageway.
This narrator is actually quite funny.
As he grew deeper into the bowels of the building, Stanley had no idea where he was or what.
I feel like whoever designed this game must have a
just as he
similar
began to
sense of
think he
humor to
might
me,
not
just sort of dry and
think,
sarcastic.
Emerged into a long room to find rows and rows of monitors, screens with a number above it. Stanley noticed, however, that these were not random numbers, but the number of employees who worked in the building, his co-workers. Even his own number, 427, had a place on the wall. But why a setup so elaborate, he asked. Was this simple surveillance or something even more? And as if in answer to his question, the wall slid open before him, revealing the ultimate truth of the situation. An enormous control panel, Stanley discovered, but not one that controlled simple machinery. Buttons were labeled with emotions: happy, sad. Levers and knobs controlled actions: walking, eating, doing work.
I don't see any of the buttons labeled with emotions.
On this device monitored not the functions of a machine.
That would have actually been funny to see.
Being. And the reality began to sink in. Stanley, like so many other people, reduced to images on a monitor, had been under someone's control, always at the mercy of this machine. Could this have been the only reason employee number 427 was content with his boring job? That a machine had altered his emotions to accept it blindly? He began to feel an unbridled rage, and at the peak of his anger, something happened. A spark. Stanley looked up and saw the generator overhead, still providing some small amount of power to the machine, keeping it alive. And knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running, Stanley moved to the ladder in the back of the room and began to climb towards the rafters.
Yeah, that's right. I'm gonna take you down, motherfucker. And this part's pretty boring.
The higher Stanley climbed, the closer he felt to freedom, the further from enslavement.
It's actually kind of a short climb. Oh, I hadn't clicked engage generator before.
Oh, Stanley. You didn't just activate the controls, did you?
I guess I did.
After it kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself? Is that what you wanted? Control? Stanley. Stanley. I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were meant to let it go, turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you have. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized that he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Oh, let's make it say, 2 minutes. Now, this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? Go ahead, play with those controls all you like. The real controls are where I'm sitting.
Oh, fuck.
Did you really ever believe you held any power? Did you not think I knew what I was doing? When I erased your co-workers and turned off the machine, I was offering you freedom, an escape. I didn't have to do that. I've run this story many times, and I don't always set you free.
Totally different from how I did it before.
Sit there, day after day after day, doing your job forever, and then dying alone. But when I actually give you the freedom to control your own actions, it's not enough. I let you go, and you trapped yourself just the same. You just weren't made to handle this sort of responsibility, I'm afraid. But you know what you were made for? Pushing buttons. You get it now? Oh, I'm enjoying this. Tell you what, I'll throw some extra time on the clock just because I'm having so much fun. There we go.
I'm going to try pushing any of these buttons.
I want to watch you for every long second you try to puzzle this out. After all, it should make sense, right? The timer, the nuclear detonation, the mysterious facility, it's all here. This is a video game. Except for one thing there, hero. You've got no weapon, no vehicle. You don't even know where you're going. When you saw that timer, you just instinctively started trying to find an exit, didn't you? In fact, I bet you're still looking for a way out. I bet you're clicking on everything in this room, trying to open doors or vents or something and solve the puzzle. As though this game has a solution, as though it can be won. That timer is not a catalyst to keep things moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. This is not a challenge. It's a tragedy. It's the moment when the hero realizes that despite his best efforts, he is powerless to his environment. And then he lets go. He surrenders. And he dies. 30 seconds, Stanley. 30 seconds. Until a boom, and then nothing. No ending to the story, just you dying. I suppose you could have gotten an actual ending if you played along, but that just wouldn't have been your style, would it? Instead, you'll perish knowing that the only choice you made here was to turn on that machine and to start this timer. But you won't be alone, because I'm not going anywhere. I'll be here to watch every second of your inevitable life from the time we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
Okay. All right. Well, so I went ahead and broke my promise and did something different from the last time I played through, which was I turned the engage generator knob, or crank, rather than the disengage generator. And I did not expect that. I didn't even expect the thing to turn. But that's an entirely different ending from the one I saw. So right off the bat, that is very interesting. But regardless, I'm going to go ahead and play through again.
And knowing that this generator was all that kept the controls running, Stanley moved to the ladder in the back of the room and began to climb towards the rafters.
Alright, so we climb up 3 ladders.
The higher Stanley climbed, the closer he felt to freedom, the further from enslavement.
Alright, this time I'm going to do what I said I was going to do. I'm going to disable the generator rather than enable it, or engage it, or whatever the thing is. And then there's one last cutscene. Oh, no, there isn't. That's right.
Blackness. Power gone. All alone. And then...
That's right. Then you walk out into the sunshine.
As he stepped through the door, into the fresh outside air, a feeling of liberation rushed through Stanley's body. He had seen power. He had seen enslavement, and he had destroyed it. The underling was in control now. He had found his leading role. Stanley never discovered why everyone had gone missing, nor how and when he had come under the machine's control. But it didn't upset him terribly, because he knew that this was how things were meant to happen. All he felt was a delight unlike any he had ever known
piano
before.
music that
Never again would he follow someone else's orders without question. Never again would anyone tell Stanley where to go,
it has an actual
what to
name,
do,
but
or how
that's
to
all I
feel.
recognize that as. I just
No
call
more
it
bosses. No more
house
instructions
music
on a
from
screen.
the show House.
Stanley decides for himself now. And he stepped out into the world, and he felt the cool breeze upon his skin, and Stanley was happy.
Well, that's a lovely ending. Cut to black. Alright, so that's what happens when you follow the narrator. Follow what the narrator says exactly. By Davey Redden. And then we got some slow credits to sit through, but I'm going to let them run through only because I wanted to go back to the main menu so I don't have to start the game over all over again. Or unless I, oh, duh, I just go ahead and click New Game.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Alright, so we've already seen the intro, we already know what happens there, so this time I'm going to take a slightly different route, and I'm pretty much going to start right off the bat from doing the opposite of what the narrator says, just to see what happens. Because that's part of the adventure of this game, and part of what gives this game the great replay value that it apparently has.
Guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Nope, I'm going to the right, bitch.
This was not the correct way to the employee lounge, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. So he turned left at the first open door and walked back in the right direction.
Nah, I'm going to keep going this way.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Maybe this is why everyone had left. No one wanted to be around someone as bad at listening as him. And since he was walking into the middle of nowhere and thus ruining the entire story, Stanley decided that he would punish himself. So when he came to the elevator and the doors opened, he stepped inside and pushed the button to go up.
Punish himself. Okay. You know what? I'm going to go down.
Oh, Stanley. You know, you really aren't going anywhere, and I don't say that deceitfully. I truthfully mean that there isn't a story down here. The story was back up where I told you to go in the first place. Right now, you're just running around looking at empty halls. And frankly, that's perhaps even more infuriating for me. So why don't you throw me a bone, give me a chance, and just let me tell the story I want to tell,
This is awesome. This feels like it was made by Valve for real, like, and probably not just some, like, indie developer who is a fan of Half-Life. It feels like something that was made.
Now listen carefully. This is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
I'm gonna walk through the blue door.
Aha, perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
No, I'm gonna keep going through the blue door. This feels like the the writing of this
I still
narration.
don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
Okay, well, I'm gonna keep going backwards through the blue door.
All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road you've chosen? Well, don't let me stop you.
Oh, wow.
You see?
What is this?
It's nothing. No one's even built this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. It's just a bunch of skybox and dead
This is
wall
awesome.
textures. That's it. Is this what you were looking for? Was it worth ruining the story I'd written out for you? I put a lot of time into that, and now well, here you are now, just looking at nothing. To think that that's all I needed to make in the first place, just a whole lot of nothing, and you would have been happy. Well, hey, you still need a little something to do. Am I right? Here, let me load up another map. See if there's something in here that'll keep you occupied. Ah, here's one. Let's boot this up. We'll see if you like it.
Oh my god, this is awesome. If it ever loads. I wonder if it'll actually, like, go somewhere, or if, Oh, great, I got my spinning beach ball of doom. Perfect. Okay, here we go, it's loading. This is actually quite fun. I mean, I haven't really done anything except walk around, but just this narration is perfect. Oh. Okay. So we're in the City 17 train depot from Half-Life 2.
Is this any better? I don't know why it would be. This map wasn't even made for you. At least I created a world specifically with you in mind. I wanted to make you a leading man. This one, well, I'm afraid you're on your own there.
He sounds like Tim Curry a little bit. I wonder if I can Oh yeah, I can pick stuff up and oh, I can't throw it though. I can only pick it up and put it down. There's a boot. Hey, no, give me the boot. Yeah, there we go. That's what I wanted. Nope, I can't throw it. It's not gonna let me throw it. Well, I can get some Dr. Breen's private reserve. Oh, is that it? There you are. Go, 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 go. Alright. I'll see what happens here.
Stanley was fat and ugly and really, really stupid.
Okay.
He probably only
Now
got
it
his
really
job
feels
because
like
of a
Portal
family
2,
connection.
the way it's
That's how
written.
stupid he is. That, or with drug money. Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Oh my god. Oh look, there's my office. Or my room, or whatever. Alright, I don't get to go in there. I just get to look at that thing. And then we're going to walk through here, and is it going to lead somewhere?
Hold up, Passport. I spent so long talking about you. Why don't we just take a break from that and talk about something else for a change?
That was actually a little bit
Let's
startling.
see. Well,
Let's
according to Wikipedia, more than 90% of the night sharks caught off northeastern Brazil contain mercury concentrations higher than that considered safe by the local government. Now, this is fascinating. Don't you want to know more about the night sharks? Oh, no, of course not. All you want to hear about is yourself, isn't it? Well, fine. You haven't listened to me once so far. I can't expect you to turn that around now, can I?
I love this. This is great. This is actually incredible. Alright, no crouch command, so all I have to do is, like, land on the floor down there and... or ground, whatever. Ooh, that's kind of gross.
Is this the end of the line? I don't suppose this was a particularly fulfilling experience for you, considering not a single art aspect in this map was created with you in mind. But hey, you're a creative kid. I bet you can come up with a story about this place and why you're in it. And while you're doing that, why don't you think up an ending too? Because you certainly won't find one here. I'm afraid that's the long and short of it. This room and these walls are all you get. Maybe the story ends when you decide you can't live in this futuristic science fiction dystopia world, and you gallantly commit suicide. Or maybe you stand in this spot for all of eternity to guide and greet other travelers like yourself who pass this way. Or maybe you just get bored and you quit the game. Heck, anything's an ending if that's where you stop playing. But whatever ending you write for yourself, Stanley, you won't have my help. You turned your back on me, and now I do the same to you. So, good luck. I think you'll need it. And I sincerely hope that everyone lives happily ever after.
Oh my god, this thing is amazing. Alright, well that's that. I'm gonna load up a new game. Okay, I'm quickly realizing that there are like probably thousands of ways for this game to go. This is one of those like genius experiences that only comes along every once in a while. This is nice. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna do things just slightly different this time.
To go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others.
This time I am actually going to go to the staff lounge.
Solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Because I don't want this to go on forever, because it feels like it honestly could, with all the different
As Stanley entered the lounge,
ways that it can go,
to find not a
all the different paths you can take.
He decided he would walk up to see his boss, hoping that he would find
So this is probably even less than half blind. I'm probably... I assumed there would just be the 2 ways that it could go, but...
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
But it turns out this is much more complex than I realized.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, of admitting that he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, was it really worth taking that risk? All because he believed everyone had disappeared? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. Everyone I know simply vanishing out of the blue, there's almost no other explanation for it. And a nagging fear began to creep up in his mind. Questions that had been there all along. He just hadn't put his finger on them yet. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Was he just walking around in circles? Where am I, he thought. And the more he found himself unable to answer these questions, the more questions continued to arise.
Oh my
until
god,
he came
this
to
show
the issue
is
that had been
this game is
slowly
amazing.
boring, until he could ignore it no longer. Why is there a voice in my head, dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Oh my god, I have almost nothing to say. This is just...
Every door slammed shut. No, Stanley screamed. I need to get out of here. I need to know that there's something out there. I need to know it's not just all in my head. And he screamed and clutched at his skull as the voice grew harsher and the music in the background rose higher and higher. And then, moments before collapsing to the ground, Stanley clenched his fists and screamed to anyone who might be listening, "I'm not real! I'm not real! Don't believe any of it! None of it's real!" And then everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella.
What the hell?
Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She got dressed, went to work, clocked in, clocked out, and then she walked home. But her walk on this day was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. Moments after seeing him, she would turn, run to the nearest police station, and call for an ambulance. But for just a few brief seconds, she merely stood there, unable to move. The tragedy was not the death of a single person. It was that she would never know this man's story, never hear in his own words what had happened to him, or what he believed had happened to him. For to know these things would be to exist inside the head of the man himself. So all she could do was observe from a distance and pity him.
That's kind of a short distance.
But Mariella had places to be and people to meet with, very important people, whose impressions of her would affect her career and indeed the rest of her life. She stood there for only a moment, looking down at the body, and then she ran.
We never saw her run, and she apparently had some kind of weird, small kind of epilepsy that makes her shake around. Well, alright, well, this could be one of the worst videos in this Let's Play series that I've ever produced, because I've said almost nothing. I mostly just kind of laughed at what's been going on in the game and just marveling at the sort of complexity of it and just the myriad ways that it apparently can end differently because of the different choices you can make. Yeah, this was a thoroughly entertaining game. That's all I really have to say about it. And the writing of the narration and the narrator himself are just awesome, and they really make the experience. I mean, the gameplay itself is, I mean, it's simplicity itself. You just move around. It doesn't get much harder than that, but oh, I thoroughly enjoyed this. This is really entertaining. I would highly recommend anyone play this if they're into this sort of thing. And I'm probably going to keep playing it for the foreseeable future, just to see if I can see all of the possibly innumerable number of endings that you can discover from this game. And yeah, that's all I have to say about this. I'm sorry if this is possibly the lamest Let's Play I've ever made, as far as my own contribution to the video itself, my own commentary, but yeah, that's it. That's the Stanley Parable, a Half-Life 2 mod. And if you liked this video, be sure to click that thumb up button and click subscribe to see what I come out with for my next Let's Play.